All right, welcome everybody. I'm joined here with Aggro, the man, the myth, the legend himself. Aggro, dude, you've got a super impressive resume. You went from pro play to casting and now game development all in Smite. Tell me, did you ever see yourself doing any of this? Was in your plans, say like 11, 12 years ago?
No, absolutely not. No, definitely not. I went to college for on-camera broadcasting, and I always wanted to be on Sports Center, like a lot of kids who were going to school around my age. Back in the glory days of Sports Center when it was actually good. And yeah, I went to school to be on camera and wanted to be either a news anchor or a sports broadcaster or something like that, but never expected to get into play-by-play stuff. I think back then my voice was not very well suited for play-by-play or commentary and that type of stuff. My voice has changed a lot, really, from overuse. If you go back and listen to like my early cast, it's like so much lighter, so much higher pitched. And just casting 7 days a week of Smite Global Series will strain your vocal cords to the point where your voice lowers.
Of course.
No, yeah, I was going to school. I graduated college. I was working for CBS Radio Pittsburgh, covering primarily the Pirates was my top thing that I was doing. I was the on-site engineer for the Pirates pre- and post-game show, so I do a lot of interviewing the players, cutting up that audio, sending it back, getting our live broadcast set up, and organizing all the interns and all that kind of stuff. And I liked it a lot, but I was making $8 an hour to work, 80-hour weeks. And that was going to be my foreseeable grind until, I got my break. And I just started playing, I'd been playing Smite for a while. My friends and I saw that it was coming out on Xbox. That's where I had done the majority of my gaming growing up. Smite was my first PC game that I ever played, so I was much more comfortable on a controller than a keyboard and mouse. And I remember watching. I'm sorry to Lovely, who's going to catch a stray here. I remember watching Lovely, who was on one of the top Xbox teams at the time, stream a tournament. And I remember sending it to my friends who I played COD with, and I was like, yo, these guys suck. Like, we are better than them, for sure. Like, we should go just make some free money. And so we did. We started signing up. We started doing really well in tournaments. And then, the rest is kind of history.
That's great. I mean, hey, listen, that's like the basis for competing, right? It's like, I can do better than you, especially if there's a prize pool. Like, why not,
And then you got to be able to back it up, right? Like all the time, the people in Twitch chat saying like, oh, Paul is such a bum. Why is he playing set? It's like, yeah, you wouldn't touch this guy if you played against him. We were lucky enough that the scene was young enough back then that we could actually back it up, because if it was watching Paul, then yeah, that would not have flown for sure.
Well, okay, so you say you started off on console. What was your favorite console? I have to ask.
Man, I've got a lot of love for the GameCube. Like the GameCube, what an all-star lineup of games, and the best controller ever made, probably. But no, I was an Xbox kid growing up. Like Halo, Gears of War, all of those types of games is really where I spent all of my time. I played a lot of sports games. I was really into sports. I stand by the fact that I'm the best Mario Superstar Baseball player on the planet. No one's touching me on that game. But yeah, mostly Xbox is where I was. Though it's crazy. I was just talking about this the other day. I don't own an Xbox anymore. I use an Xbox controller for some online games, but I'm a PlayStation guy now, man. PlayStation's just like totally taken over the console market. Like, I never thought I'd say it because I'm a PlayStation controller hater. I hate thumbsticks that are in line with one another. But man, their games are just better. I don't know. Xbox just couldn't keep up.
Yeah, I feel like the Xbox glory days kind of like ended off after the 360. Like, I feel like
Xbox One was still goated. Xbox 360 was great, but Xbox One was better than PlayStation 3 for sure.
Okay, yeah, fair enough. Well, I never played the PlayStation 3, but I remember the Xbox One had like the snap feature initially, and then they were just like, we can't support this anymore, and then they just kind of got rid of it.
Yeah, they were like, yeah, we're not messing with that. Way too much of a pain for the developers, I'm sure. I can empathize now.
Absolutely. So during your time pro play, were you playing in the SCL or were you?
Yeah, we well, the first tournament that I ever traveled for was the qualifying tournament for the Smite Console League for when it started. So what they did was you had to do a whole bunch of online qualifiers. It was run through MLG, and you would have to we had to do all these matches to get MLG points. We had to play arenas competitively, which was like the worst thing in the world because MLG didn't really know what Smite was all about. They were like, "Oh yeah, it's just arena is one of the most popular modes. We'll do that." Awful. Awful. I remember Kenshin like Kabrakan ulting minion waves in arena, and I just like couldn't stand it. But yeah, qualified to get to MLG New Orleans, and then it was top 8. Yeah, I want to say top 8 at MLG New Orleans qualified for the SCL. So that was like a high pressure tournament.
Was that like your first major tournament?
Yep, I never played at a LAN before. I knew almost all my teammates. My two of my teammates, one of them I went to high school with, the other one was his college roommate. The three of us were very, very close friends. Then our other two teammates we picked up, but so like I was really close with most of the team, and I just I was so excited to go to MLG New Orleans, and we went and we played really, really well. We finished top 4. We secured our SEL spot. I was super, super stoked. And then Elevate had won that event. Elevate being Elion, Clow, Puka. God, can I remember their whole roster? It was Elion, Clow, Puka. I want to say it was Wiggles at that point still playing support. And Uzi. It must have been Uzi. And they won the event. And then Elion, who I'd met on the way, we were both at a layover in the Atlanta airport, and we met up and introduced ourselves and got to talking a little bit. And then Elevate won the event, and then Andy DM'd me after the event saying, "Hey bro, I can't team with Clow anymore. I can't take it anymore. Will you come be our mid laner?" And I was like, "Yeah, man." I mean, it was tough because we had just qualified to the event. We played well, but our team was not going to be able to compete with them, and I knew that. And my friends were not super stoked about me ditching them. Caused a little rift for a little bit, but all's good now, of course. And yeah, joined Elevate, and that was the very beginning of the Smite Console League. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, dude, that's what I tell people, man. It's just so hard because I've been competing for many years. It's so hard to try to compete with friends, because like,
yes,
at the end of the day, it's like a business, right? And you got to make those business decisions for yourself. And if you leave your friends behind, it's gonna be like, I hope I don't cause like a little rift in our friendship.
Yeah, no, it was one of them was fine, the other one was pretty mad at me. Got drunk at a New Year's Eve party back in Pittsburgh, and it made up, and it was all fine. It was
good. That's good.
I was rooting for them to finish second. I wanted them to do really well, just not better than us.
Yeah, of course. Good luck, but not versus me, right?
Right, exactly.
So how long did you end up competing for?
So that was season 2 of PC, was the first year of SCL. I competed all that year. I could spend 30 minutes going through how we should have gotten a much better placement at Worlds, but got a little unlucky. But yeah, we played. That was end of season 2. We lost to Envy in open bracket, and then season 3 there were only 2 splits that year. It was spring and it was like summer and fall splits for SCL, and I played in spring. We got off to a really good start. We beat Eager 2-0, sat Mifflin down as was easy at the time. And then I had scheduled to go. My friends had asked me to go on vacation, and I looked at our schedule, and it was a bye week. So I was like, "Oh, great, I can go, no problem." It's during the bye week. Something happened, and the bye week got shifted. Okay, the bye week got shifted, and we had games that week. And I said, "Guys, we were undefeated. We had games against Most Wanted, which was Clow, Transonics, More Wolves, Matt Coys, and I can't think of their fifth member. Would have been their jungler. It would have been a Just. And I was like, we stomp these guys in scrims, you'll be fine. Like, and then it was against Xlux and Junipera and Noble. Terrible team. All due respect, not that much good. They were not good. I was like, even if we go 1-1 on this week, we're fine. Like, it was 2 games. That was back when it was 2 games. You could either split them and get 1 point, win 2-0, get 3 points. And Sam Bam, the old eager mid laner, was my sub. And I was like, Sam's a decent player. You guys will be fine. Andy can 1v9 these games all by himself. Like, if he just cares, we're fine. We don't need anyone else to win. Andy gets a little tilted because he doesn't like what Sam Bam's doing, and, you know, he's not communicating or whatever it is. Shuts it down. We lose 0-2 to Most Wanted. And I was like, oh boy, here we go. I was like, guys, it's fine. We knew we could lose this. Let's just take care of business against Noble and everything will be fine. I'm literally watching, our coach was streaming the games to a private Twitch or Mixer channel, and I'm watching the games at a bar in North Carolina with my friends, and I watch us lose game 1 to Noble, and I was like, I'm done, dude. I literally shut off my phone. I turned my phone off. I didn't even and I just got hammered because I was so annoyed, man. I was so mad. That's for Andy being like, bro, we had Sam Bam. He was so bad. I was like, Andy, you could have had Robot and beaten that team. Like, what are you talking about, bro? I don't want... Andy was very young at this time and still had some maturing to do. And so we lose both those games. And it puts us in a position where we need to 2-0 Eager at the end of that phase in order to make it to LAN, because only top 2 made it. And I remember our prep so well. I could probably find my notebook with our scrim notes somewhere. I've still got a bunch of boxes from moving that it's in.
Sure, yeah, we'll put that in later.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, we'll have me dig it out. I remember our draft prep against Eager. Fafnir had just come out, and we didn't think Jelly played it. And I remember Bro Chacho was our support by then. Love that guy to death. Great teammate, couldn't hit water if he fell out of a boat with an Xbox controller. Like, just, my man could not press a button to save his life. Loved having him on the team. Team morale, like, 10 out of 10 with him. Didn't need to have him hit a button. And I just remember him going, bro, it don't matter if Jelly plays Fafnir. I'll just play Ares, bro, and he won't be able to play around me. And I'm like, Chach, like, Fafnir's OP, dog. Like, you know he's broken, right? And he's like, yeah, but it's fine. Ares counters him, bro. It's fine. I cripple him when he transforms and he can't play. I'm like, all right, man. We play. We have the world's worst 3v3 draft in mid ever, which was Ares. I played Giannis, which was my best god. And Elion played Alquang. And it's like, how do you kill anyone? Ares, Alquang, Giannis in a 3v3, which the whole meta was centered around, and was the strength of our team, which was not good. Eager, sure enough, drafted Fafnir. They had, I think I can tell you their whole draft. It was Fafnir, Cupid ADC, Soul mid, Bastet jungle, and I think Dwurst. I don't remember his pick because he always, it was Xing Chen or some garbage. They didn't fight us a single time. They did every objective off cooldown. I finished the game 0-0-0, and we lost. And so we couldn't make LAN because we needed 2-0 them in order to do it. That was before there was a global sound when they killed objectives. And I remember we had FG timer, and I was like, yo, we have to be here for FG. We show up 4 seconds after it spawned, and they was dead, and they were gone. Like, that's how OP release Fafnir was. Like,
yeah, double ADC, Fafnir, yeah.
Double ADC, Fafnir, Frenzy, they just insta-killed everything. And so we didn't make LAN, and I reached out to F. and Adonis, who I'd met at MLG Columbus, which was the LAN after MLG New Orleans. And I was like, yo, I know sometimes you bring players down to do, like, some desk work or some guest casting, like, I'd be down. When I'd met them, I'd talk to them about casting, and it was never something that I was planning on doing initially. But once I started in Smite Esports, and obviously, I was such a big fan of Bart and F-Dot and Hindu and all those guys, like just from watching the SPL over the years. And I was like, yeah, it kind of makes sense with my background, right? Like I have an on-camera degree. I have a lot of knowledge about the game. Maybe I'll try and do it. Like, it was definitely something that I was trying to do. Like, maybe I could end up being a caster, but it wasn't the primary plan or anything like that. And they said, yeah, we'll bring you down. I did some desk work. I casted. Those were basically my first ever casts were at that LAN. And then I remember I went home, the usual LAN, fly home early Monday morning, super hungover, feel like garbage. And I took a nap as soon as I got home, and I woke up to a text from Adonis, because he was the casting lead at the time, saying, hey, if we offered you a job, would you move to Georgia? And I said yes, and I think we moved to Georgia 3 weeks later. Like, it was a
Wow.
very, very fast process for me to get down there. Yeah.
Yeah. And so is that like why you just stopped competing in general, was because of that?
Yes. Yeah. I mean, I really think, I forgot the classic. Keegs also slept through games against Kingdom that split, yeah, which also made us not qualify. Kingdom was winless, and I swear to God, we would have won 4v5. Like, I begged Cooper, let us play 4v5. Like, it's not getting broadcasted. Just let us play 4v5. We will win. And we would have, but he didn't let us, and he was right to do so. Yeah, Keegs slept through game 1 and then woke up in time for game 2. Cooper gave us way too much time to show up for game 2. But the rules say like 10 minutes or whatever. It was like 45 minutes later. Keegs shows up. He lets us play. I swear to you, no one said a single word the whole game. We didn't VGS. We didn't say a word in comms. We just played completely silent, won the game in less than 20 minutes, and all left. Like, we were so pissed. But yeah, but I was so sure we were the best team at the time. And we were going to draw, before I left for the LAN, and while I was interviewing for the position, we were trying out different ADCs. So like, we tried out Paul to be our ADC, and we were going to pick up Paul, and like, we were going to win Worlds if we had Paul ADC, right? Like, that I felt like we were the best team. We only didn't get to go to LAN because of some circumstances that were well within our control, but for console teams, basically out of our control.
A series of unfortunate events.
Extreme, so unlucky, and we would have certainly gotten there. And I really thought about it for a while because, Worlds, even on Xbox, was a lot of money. And I remember talking to my then girlfriend, now wife, like, I don't know, am I insane if I just tell them no for now and I just wait? Like, I just want to finish competing for this year? Because I felt like I was still, I was definitely not the best mid laner in the league. It was either Delta Marine 72, aka Unrelinquished on Eager, or Paul. But I felt like getting a lot better, and was very good at the things I was good at, like communicating, kind of managing the team, making overall like big picture shot calls. And I loved competing, and it made me really sad to leave, for sure. That I really thought, do I want to play out the rest of this year and hope that they'll still offer me the job at the end of the season, or do I just take the job now? And obviously chose to take the job then. I think it's the right call, but part of me always wonders if we would have won Worlds. We would have. It's easy for me to say that, and it would have been so much better because Mifflin won Worlds that year, and I have to hear about it all the time. Like, oh no, I could have denied Caleb his ring and gotten one myself. Like, God, that's such a big swing. Yeah.
You're just like, if I could just go back in time in like a parallel universe, and just do it.
Just win that Worlds and then start casting. But I'm glad I didn't, because the casting that year was really fun, and definitely helped shape me into the caster that I became, for sure.
Yeah. So I mean, like, speaking of that, what what did you like about it so much when you said it was MLG Columbus, right? That you were
MLG New Orleans was the first, and then Columbus was the second. Yeah.
Yeah, but that you started casting at?
It was the summer finals in Atlanta in the studio.
Okay.
Was the first time that I had started casting, and I love high level Smite. Like it just I love high level Smite, and I really grew to I didn't at the time, but eventually commentary just became like an obsession. Like I would just listen to everything, and just really, really try and break down why I think a caster is good, why I think they're not good, like what, we're talking word choice, we're talking pacing, I could talk about just the mechanics of casting, the things that people don't really think about for hours. And I just really grew to love it. But at the time, when I just did that summer finals, I think I just really liked, being a part of the community at large. It's just, Smite's community is just so fun and so welcoming, and to get to just help teach the game and give knowledge and just kind of explain what I'm seeing when I'm watching a game was really fun. And I got to use a lot of the technical training that I got in college to be on camera, which was really fun.
Yeah, so it kind of became like a hidden passion for you, like something that you just didn't know you liked. You got into it, and it's like, wow, this is something I really want to do for the foreseeable future.
Yeah, man, I got so engrossed in it. I'd cast during the day and then go home and rewatch every single game just to listen back and think about what I should have done differently, and listen to different games or different casters in Smite and pick their brain, and lots of long talks with Tom in particular, with F. He definitely shared that passion about commentary in particular. And I think the thing that is so fun about competing is seeing your growth. And I think that's really the thing that draws me to do almost anything in life, but particularly games. Like if I don't feel like I'm getting better, I'm not that interested in keeping in still doing it. That's like that feeling of self-improvement is addicting. And I just felt it so clearly when I was casting. Like, there are just so many things you can improve upon. And I was just so hungry to find all of them and get better at all of them. And that's what really because there were times, don't get me wrong, like season 5, season 6, those seasons where we were doing SCL, SPL, and Smite Global Series, and to the minor leagues. I think it was SML at the time. Like we were literally casting 7 days a week, and that sucked. Like, don't get me wrong, I love casting. That was too much Smite. That's what I'd say all the time. And I was like, no one can watch this much. Like, who is this for? Like, why are we here casting EU PS4 for the 70th hour of the week? That was definitely tilting at times, but even that, like, I don't know, man. I just loved it. Like it was so fun. Yeah, it was just a lot of fun.
Yeah, I think that's where the elements of you being a competitor comes from as well. So when you were competing at pro level, pro play, and you go into casting, I mean, it's those same elements there, right? Like getting better, going back and, like you said, literally rewatching VODs of you casting, trying to get better, trying to like almost compete with the other casters. You know what I mean? It's the same exact formula. It's the same elements.
Oh yeah. No, I didn't. Not at first. Like, and there was no way, because that was season 3 for SPL when I started. Like, I didn't expect to get big games during season 3 at all. But by the time season 4 came around, and the chair twos were like me and Anatoly. Loved having Toly on the team, and it wasn't anything personal against him. It's just me as a competitive person. Like, a big game was coming up, or lands or worlds, like I was really about like I'm gonna prove that it should be me on these big games for sure. I didn't want to give those up to anyone, unless I felt like they were better than me. But I worked really hard to make sure I didn't feel that way.
Yeah, you're not feeling that. Yeah.
Yeah. So that competitive part of me definitely stayed. Like I didn't want, I think casting is so subjective, right? Like I don't think I would never blame anyone who says that their favorite caster, that they didn't really like me that much as a caster. Like that's fine to me. That doesn't bother me. Casting is an art form, not a science, but there is a technical aspect of it that other casters should be attuned to. And though I'm going to nail those, like I'm going to make sure I'm nailing those. And so I feel like I should be getting recognition from my teammates on the work that I'm putting in. And that's what should be earning me these big games, not the other things, but doing the hidden things well. I wanted to make sure that I was never getting outworked in that department for sure.
Definitely. And I gotta ask, because I was wondering this a lot. It seems like there's a lot of positions in being a caster. There's a lot of different casting positions. You mentioned chair 2 earlier. So like I know you have like lead caster, you have like analyst. Can you like give me the names of all the positions, or at least like most of them?
Sure. Yeah. So on the desk, we can start there because that's different than casting. It's a different skill set. You got your host. I think Gormizer is one of the best hosts we've ever had. Just super flexible. A host needs to be able to extend a conversation, shorten a conversation, just really have command of those who are on the desk and know where the show is going and get you there smoothly and efficiently. Or take their time and stretch when they're having tech issues and that type of stuff. Then you've got your analysts on the desk. Those can be difficult on your logged desk segments, but typically you're pretty easy because you know what you're getting ahead of time. We have a pre-production meeting. Hey, we're talking about this player, we're going to have highlights. We're talking about this player, we're going to have highlights. Or it's, who do you want to talk about? And then we'll support you on that. And then once you're into picks and bans are really easy. Like, it's just, oh, they picked this because this comp does this. It's a surprise that they did this because they haven't picked this god or whatever it may be. Picks and bans are pretty, you should be nailing those as really a duo, because the host really all they need to say is, hey, they picked this and this. What do you think about that? And then the analyst just has free reign and in whatever time they need to go through the things they got to go through. Then yeah, when it comes to actually casting, there's chair 1 or play-by-play. Those are the same thing. And their job is very simple. What is happening on the screen? That's all you got to do. Dave is a great example of someone who, when he started casting Smite, he didn't know what the fuck was going on. Like, he didn't know anything about Smite at the time, but he was just good at saying what was happening on the screen. He had enough knowledge to do that. And then he can just let his chair 2 or color commentator or analyst, whatever you want to call them, kind of fill in the blanks. And that's when I taught a casting class at Georgia State a few years ago. And the way I would put it was, chair 1s, they handle the who, what, when, and where of the 5 W's, that you would talk about in school and that kind of stuff. They handle who, what, when, and where, all of that type of information. The chair 2, they have one job, and it's why. That's it. Why? You have to give the context for what the viewers are seeing. And I think it's really, really hard in a MOBA because when you're talking about a game like Rocket League is the easiest, because there's a literal ball. When you're watching sports, when you're watching, like when someone walks in and you're watching a sport you've never seen before, instinctually, let's just follow the ball and I'll figure it out from what they're saying or from what people are doing around it. In a game like Counter-Strike, there's no ball, but it's also much more self-explanatory. Who's winning, because it's round-based. There's eliminations that they don't respawn. Like, those games are more straightforward. In a MOBA, you have to explain what the ball is. And the ball changes a lot during a game, right? In the early game, it's buff invades, it's ganks, all that type of stuff. That's what the ball is. In the mid game, it's objective control, tower pushing. In the late game, it's fire giants, phoenixes, like, and there's always a bunch of other things happening that you can follow, like player versus player storylines, or god versus god, or comp versus comp. And so there's a lot of different angles to take it as a chair 2. And that's what always really excited me was, you know, I did a little bit of chair 1. I did a little bit of play-by-play. Like if you heard me casting with Taco or Toli or Myth towards the end, then that would have been me as chair 1 and them as chair 2. And chair 1's fun because you get to yell and, you know, be in the highlight reels and say, you know, oh, all the time. And that is great. And I'm not trying to diminish that role because it is hard. And again, harder in a MOBA because you have to carry through the downtime and kind of direct a chair 2 if they aren't as experienced. But because the chair 2 role is so amorphous, it's so free flowing, it's all, in my mind, again, like hyper competitive brain, it's just a skill check in my mind. Like it's all skill, what you get to do. You know, if you're good, then you're going to be hitting the right points at the right time. You're going to be bringing up the right things. You're going to be setting the viewers up for success. That was something I tried to preach a lot, was if you can make a viewer think, oh, they shouldn't have pulled that fire giant, they don't have the DPS for that. And you might have said that 10 games ago or earlier this game or something like that, and you're not saying it in the moment, but you're making the viewer think something about the game that's correct, you're doing your job well. And if you can set your viewer up for success, if you can set your chair 1 up for success, if you don't need your chair 1 to be asking you a ton of questions or not knowing where to go, you can do a lot from that position. And that's kind of what I loved so much about it. You know, it's like you'd think that the chair 1 is kind of more of the point guard and kind of passing the ball around and where you want to go. And a lot of times they will be, but when it was like me and FDOT or me and Finch and me and Dolson, like these premier chair 1s, and we've got great rapport and we've casted, you know, 100 games together, and you go back and listen to those games, like it's not the chair 1, it's not them asking me a question and me answering it. It's this free flowing conversation that's kind of all over the place, but all giving some type of enhancement to the game. And those are the types of things that really that I just absolutely love.
Yeah, I mean, definitely. You can tell when 2 casters just have synergy with each other. Like you can just tell off the rip if they're synergizing well, if they've been doing it for a while together. So when a team fight breaks out, right, that's chair 1's like go-to. Like if chair 2 is talking, for example, like, you know, analyzing, and then all of a sudden a team fight breaks out, chair 1's taken over to commentate that team fight.
Yep, absolutely. Chair 2's job is to shut up at that moment and let the chair 1 do their job, because you're going to have a lot to talk about afterwards. Like we've got some, you know, and again, I want to be clear, casting is an art form and not a science. This is the way that I view what that balance should be. Guys like Myth, who's a great chair 2, but very different than how I did it. He wanted to do a lot more 1.5, like chair 1.5 is what I tell him all the time. He's like, you know, a team fight happens and Myth is going to talk about the gold values of each team. And I'm like, dude, what are you doing? Like, that's the chair. A chair 1 can read numbers. A chair 1 can't tell me, you know, that this person won, that Captain Twig won the fight because he Naja sashed a key ability and got iframes during it. Like, that's you. Tell me that. Like, that's what I want to hear from you, not this gold nonsense. But that's just kind of the way. And he and Dave became great at doing that 1.5 and 1.5. You know, they were a great combination at doing that. Him and Gore, great combination of doing that. But it's just a little bit different. So a guy like Myth might take a little bit more of a team fight, whereas me, I'm getting the fuck out of there and letting the chair 1 do their thing, because the other thing is that I'm greedy. Like, I want to talk what I want to talk about when I want to talk about it. So I know that I've got to give them their time, because when it comes back to me, I'm holding for 75 seconds. So get your words out now and then take a drink, because like I want that time, because that's my time to talk, you know?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Do you have a favorite casting moment or any memorable matches that were your favorite to cast?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, any finals is, any finals for sure. Those, I can't put into words what that experience is like. And it's, you know, personal life, like, marriage and child and all that kind of stuff aside, like, that is the best feeling I've ever experienced for sure, is being a part of these unbelievable moments with a live crowd in particular. That's number one, without a doubt. The other things, like, I'm going to be honest, I have a really, really good memory about some things, like, the comp we lost to Eager with. But I just casted so many games that it's really hard to remember, like, individual ones sometimes. I mean, I remember some individual games, but for the most part, like, when I think about my favorite memories casting, it's almost always something stupid. Like, when it was Finch's birthday and Pretty Hair brought a bunch of cupcakes on screen because Finch, like, hated it, and he just kept handing them to him. Like, that was great. When someone in chat, when Pecky's came in right before we went live with something, and said, "Hey, F dot, someone in chat called you a fat egg," and we thought it was the funniest thing in the entire world, and we just kept calling each other fat eggs. And I don't know, I want to say that was season 3 super regionals, but if I could find that game, I guarantee the camera comes to us and we both just have tears, like, in our eyes. Like, we were just crying laughing. We thought it was so funny. It was whatever event Rain Day was doing our desk hosting. I remember that. Maybe I could help narrow it down. Those types of moments, like, definitely stand out above everything else. Just, like, having fun and trolling around. But there are so many great Smite games. I still think it's so annoying that season 7, the season 7 worlds were during the pandemic, because that world championship run by PK was the best, I think, of all time in Smite 1. And I think Finch and I had just the best finals cast out of any year ever. And the fact that we didn't get to do it in front of a crowd is so bullshit. Like, just imagine Paul's pop-off, like, when he kills Sam under the tier 2, when he Scylla owns him, and turns that and wins an unwinnable game. Like, imagine what the crowd would have done in that moment. You know what I mean? Like, just so annoying that we get robbed of that.
What was that? Was that like the worlds where, if I remember correctly, that was like my first worlds I was watching, I think. Was that the one where, like, Zapman was just kind of inting, like, the last, like, game or two, and, like, Paul was just popping off?
That was most of their runs. But I think that was season 8. Season 8 in particular, I think Zap had a really rough game 5 in particular. He was playing Cupid, and they pulled a fire, and Zap stayed on the fire when everyone else was, like, winning the fight around them. And I remember, like, just getting so split because I could tell the game was ending. But, I would watch ADCs a lot in late game team fights because that's where the damage is coming from most of the time. And that fight was particularly split because Paul was playing Morgan that game, I think. And the fight's kind of all over the place. I'm just watching Zap stand by himself, auto a fire giant that's at like 3k HP. And I'm hearing Finch be like, PK is gonna win. And I'm like, fucking how? Like, this guy hasn't hit a single god. Like, what is happening? So that might have been the one, but I think that was season 8, if my memory serves.
Now that you mentioned Scylla, I remember, I think Paul got Scylla, like, single-handedly nerfed the next season because everybody just started playing it. Every mid laner just started playing it.
Yep, they definitely did, and I was one of them, dude. Like, of course I'm playing it, man. He made it look so easy. You just hit your buttons and they all die. Like, that's odd. This character is OP.
Aggro, I was the kind of guy that was like, man, I was playing Scylla before Paul even started, all right? Like, that was me, dude. That was me, all right?
Yeah. Well, hey, before Paul, it was MLC Stealth God. That was an MLC Stealth God before Paul. For what? From season 1 until season 7? That was an MLC Stealth God, and then Paul stole it from him.
And a Dragon Story character too.
No,
Oh
no. Dragon Story is not in the conversation, Dash. No
That's true.
shot,
So,
man.
I'm sorry.
No
I didn't mean to bring
shot.
him up. Listen, that was the only character that guy could frag on in my games. I was giving it to him because I was like, this is the only one you can do, all right?
Listen, whether you agreed with the methods or not, that man won a lot of ranked games. Say what you will, but you have to admit, that guy won a lot of ranked games. Like, do I think he was a great player? No, but he won a lot of games. Like, he won more ranked games in a year than I probably have in my whole life. Like, that dude grinded. So, you know, credit where it's due.
Dude, his departure from the Smite community was like one of the funniest things ever. It's like, this is a big social experiment or something like that. I forgot the tweet. It was too good.
Yes, yeah. We've Smite community, great. Love it to death. Something about it just attracts some real creatures at times.
Yeah, for sure.
Something about it.
Was there anything that was like super challenging when it came to casting for you? Like, I know you said you were doing like a lot of research, trying to get better and stuff like that. Was there something that you were just sort of disappointed in with yourself?
Yeah, I think I had to work on word choice a lot. I would in casting, we call them shitter phrases. And every caster does it, no matter how great you are. Everyone develops a shitter phrase. And you'll develop one, you'll use it all the time, you'll get aware of it, you'll get rid of it, and then you'll get another one. And it's never ending. And I was certainly no exception to that. I think the first one I can remember is when my chair one would be talking, they'd say, I'm an active listener. I do it a lot in real life too. I go, yeah, or like, like while someone's talking to like let them know that I'm still listening and I'm engaged and all that kind of stuff. But it was really bad. I was doing it all the time. And I remember Hindu Man was like, hey man, you've got to fucking stop. Like, you've got to stop saying yeah. And I remember I told my wife, like, hey, if I do that around the house, like, tell me. Like, I need to cut it out of my life entirely because it was I had such a hard time kicking it. And eventually I did. But then, I'd get another one and all that kind of stuff. But I think that just kind of comes with the territory. No, I think one of the things that I really prided myself on as a caster was my ability to change my game or adjust my style to pair well with the style of my chair one. If you listen to how I'm speaking, what I'm talking about, when I'm talking about things with F. versus Hindu Man, it's really different. Or with Dolson or with Finch or with, Gore, J-Mac, like any of them, the way I approach the cast changes with all of them. And that is something that I really always prided myself on. I remember having a particularly hard time adjusting to Finch, and just being like, man, I cannot figure out where I need to be. It wasn't that I didn't enjoy casting with him or that, I thought our casts were bad. It just, it's one of those
Hard to
like,
adapt.
Yeah, it's just, it's like the psycho part of the brain that it's like, yeah, this is 90% of the way there, but what's missing from our last 10%? Yeah. Like, how do I get there? And it finally clicked that, on how I needed to do it. And again, I don't know if I could really put into words what it was, but I think once we finally got there, I think Finch was my best pairing, by a pretty large margin. I'd say like him, then Tom, then Dolson are probably like my best fits, in that order. But there was like, I remember struggling to try and get to feel like we had like a really, really perfect cast, with Finch for a while. And I think it was that when I came in, Tom was really established. I'd been listening to him. It's not that he was static and that he wasn't changing his game, because everyone does, of course. But I felt like I needed to adjust to him. And by the time Finch came around, I was established. I'd casted 2 finals by that point. I'd been around for about a year and a half. I was more confident in what I was doing. And I think that I felt that I needed to help him cast correctly. Not that I didn't respect what he was doing or anything like that, but I just, I felt like it was a mentor-mentee type of more relationship on the cast. And then I think it just took me too long to realize, like, oh, he doesn't need my help. Like, he's good. Like, I can worry about me and not worry about him, and we'll be fine. And I think that was definitely reinforced. Season 5 semifinals were Dig versus Splice. It was the first DreamHack, and Finch and I had that semifinal call. And Splice won both game 1 and 2 in really like crazy fashion. Because that's just what Splice did, during that whole run. They were just such a goofy team. And I remember Maswal was playing Zeus game 3, and Cuvo was playing Cirquet, and Cuvo ambushed Maswal at his own red. And I thought Maswal was just dead. He got full Cirquet comboed, all this kind of stuff. And I didn't have enough air in my lungs. Like, in order to not lose your voice when you're casting, you have to belly breathe. So you have to like pull air deep into your lungs, so it feels like you fill up your stomach when you're breathing in, and then you, instead of controlling volume or pitch with your throat, you control it by pushing more air. Like, you don't ever want to feel it here. You have to feel it in your stomach. And I was in the middle. I had just taken a drink, or I just didn't have enough air because I just talked for a while. And Maswal like one-tapped Cuvo. And it caught me so off guard. And, the crowd goes crazy. Finch goes crazy. And I just like do a quick little pop off in the background. I'm like, whoa, something like that. Blew out my voice like instantly, just because I used all my throat, had no air, insta-killed my voice. And you just hear my voice. If you go back and listen, season 5 semifinals, you can hear my voice getting worse and worse and worse as the game is going on. And so I'm just talking less and less and less because I'm trying to save it. It's a semifinal. We're in game 3. If Splice don't sweep, like I'm already thinking about that. I'm thinking about finals tomorrow that I'm supposed to be on. I'm thinking about all this while the game's going on. Splice is about to lose. Aurora chases them from the Titan room all the way to their Titan, and Splice ends. Like, it was crazy. Aurora was playing Artio. And I just remember, like, Finch just stepped up and just hard carried that cast. And I felt, and, I knew he was nervous coming into that set because it was his first big game. It was his first semifinal. And he was really nervous game 1, and then he settled in, and then he killed it game 3 with no support from me whatsoever. Like, the last 20 minutes of that game, I feel like I talked like 15% my normal amount because I just couldn't. And I remember just giving him a hug right afterwards and being like, thank you. I'm so sorry that I let you down, and thank fucking God they won in 3. And that was the first semifinal that day. And Hindu came up and had obviously heard my voice and was like, yo, are you going to be good for tomorrow? And I was like, I don't know, but I'm just not going to talk the rest of the day. And I literally did not speak a word from the end of that set until like an hour before finals the next day. I set my phone background to like a note that said, sorry, can't talk, saving my voice. And anytime anyone would come up to me at the venue, I'd like show it to them and like, wave, sign something, take a picture, whatever. I drank like 20 teas, tons of honey, all this kind of stuff. Didn't say a word the entire night, and my voice was fine for finals the next day.
That's awesome. That note, that's such a save. I would have thought about that. Someone would have been like, why aren't you talking to me?
be like, oh, I can't.
Yeah.
Sorry, don't want to talk too much. Like that's the stuff that kills your voice for sure.
It's like, damn, this guy probably thinks I'm a dick now.
Yeah, I did. I felt really bad. But you know, it's I was just like, man, I would get so pumped up for finals, and I would look forward to them all year. And I was like, man, I'm gonna be so depressed if my voice can't go for this. Like, I'm gonna be so sad, and just got a little fortunate that it recovered enough. I remember I couldn't talk. Like, my voice didn't recover for like a week after that finals.
Really?
Yeah, it was scratchy for like a week. That's probably what lowered my voice. I wonder. I should go back and listen to that year and see if my voice was higher at the beginning of that year, because it happens kind of gradually. But I'm sure that definitely did some stuff to it.
Definitely. Well, I kind of want to get into your current role as a developer.
Sure.
So, what's your role as a Smite dev, and what specifically do you do for the dev team?
Sure. So I'm part of the gameplay design team. And on Smite 1, I was a god designer. So we usually only have like 2 to 3 of those at a time who are creating new gods. And, concept, like, we're basically told, let's take Maui, for example, because he was my first god. I was told, hey, your first god's going to be Maui. He's going to be a support, and we probably want him to be like athletic and like doing athletic things. Go research what his stories are, research his lore. I'd come back with a presentation about, hey, here's, what he did in lore. Here's some characteristics that he kind of has. Like, here are his stories. Okay, let's brainstorm. What would he do in Smite? And you do that with a couple different teams. You get those brainstorms, and then you come up with 3 totally separate kits. From basic attacks, passive, all 4 abilities, all different. And you present those, we call that the 3 kit pitch. And you present that to the other designers, and the designers go, oh, okay, I thought this motif, this general gameplay loop was cool, but I liked this passive a little bit more. How can we adjust it to fit in? This ultimate was my favorite. How can we adjust that to fit in this new kit? And then you kind of combine those, and that's how you come up with your god. So that's what I did on Smite 1. Also part of, balance meetings, implementing balance, helping check for bugs, fixing bugs, like all that type of stuff. Now on Smite 2, it's a little different, because in Smite 1, we'd go, okay, here's our kit that we're going with for our god. Programming, you prototype it. Like, you make it so that we can start playing with it. Now it's, hey, here's a new god that we're making, or, here's a god. We have to port over a god from Smite 1. We as designers are now responsible for making the prototypes. And so it's a much more technical position than it was in Smite 1. And that is not my strongest suit, if we're being honest with each other. I'm still learning. I have no background in programming or, computer things of any nature, basically. I'm a complete noob when it comes to that kind of stuff, but we're getting there, we're learning. But my role now is more like polishing Smite 1 gods as they're getting ported over. I just locked a god that I don't think we spoiled yet, so I can't say it. But went through and literally recorded all of their abilities in Smite 1, and then recorded all their abilities in Smite 2, and then went frame by frame, advancing side by side, making sure that the abilities are coming out at the same time, the effects are the same strength, like all of that kind of stuff. And that takes a long time, because then, when you find a discrepancy, inevitably, you've got to go fix it. And so it's been a lot of doing that. It's been a lot of brainstorming, +1s for Smite 1 gods. I did a pitch for a Smite 2 exclusive god, but that god is we don't have an exact date of when that's going to get started and come out, but because we're focused so much on trying to expand the roster for free to play launch. But still making new gods, but a lot of it now is just polish, make a prototype, polish. Like try and get them out the door as fast as we can.
Do you guys have a set date for when free to play launches?
We might, but I don't know it.
Okay, gotcha.
So I mean, I have an idea, but I don't know what we've said publicly, so I don't want to get in trouble by spoiling anything.
Okay, gotcha. Yeah, I had a few people ask me. That's the only reason why I asked.
Sure, it's not too far away. I think I can say that.
Okay, gotcha. Cool. Yeah, I thought it was like in January or something like that. So I don't know if that was right, but
yeah. Again, I don't know what we said publicly, so I don't want to.
Yeah. No, you're good. I don't want to put you on the spot.
Yeah, no, you're good.
Real quick too, I'm super curious. How did you go from being a caster to a developer? Like, what was that transition?
Yeah, it's a good question. So starting season 4, the caster started getting invited to weekly balance meetings. There are multiple balance meetings a week, and there's lots of just during the day talk about balance ideas and that type of stuff. But there's also formal sit down, look at stats, and discuss what we want to do. And starting in season 4, we started getting invited to those, and I loved them. I think being presented with a problem and then trying to solve that puzzle is very fun. Sometimes it's really easy. A lot of times it isn't. I think something we all learn quickly once you're involved in balance meetings is having ideas is not hard. Like having ideas for what to do to a god or to an item or for a new god or a new item, like having good ideas, I don't want to diminish it, but having good ideas is not enough. It's really what game development is all about, in my opinion, is what can you do with this. You have this many ideas. You've got this huge web of ideas. You've got to fit into this box. Like, this is the amount of time or the amount of resources or, the amount of scope that we can afford to do at this time. Translate something from here to here and make it good. And that's the hard part. So
yeah, execution.
Yeah, exactly. Like, look, we all know we could just make every god feel really good if we gave them a ton of damage or a ton of different CCs or a ton of different effects. Like, the Erlang Shen rework is a good example. Like, I really wish is what we put out exactly in an ideal world what I would have done to Erlang Shen? No, of course not. But that was the best we could do with the resources and the time that we had available. And I still think there was a lot of good in it. But that's just like, would I have loved to rework a whole ability of Erlang Shen or something like that? Yeah, of course. Like, but when the constraints are what the constraints are, you can only do so much. And that's not a fault. That's no one's fault. That's every game that's ever been made. That's every movie. It's every TV show. It's every book. It's every song. Like, that's media. Like, you can't do everything for everything, and you've got to know when to call it. And so that's like the big thing. But anyways, I got kind of distracted. So I started going to balance meetings in season 4 and loved it and was really, really active in them throughout the years. Never stopped going. And, during the off season for competitive, they obviously, Hi-Rez wants us to continue to provide value to the company because they're paying us to do so. And I think that that's completely fair. And so we would kind of shuffle around and do some things for other departments in order to help out. And so I would often try and get to work with the design team on like, hey, can I sit in on more balance meetings? Can I do some proposals? Can you teach me how to change the numbers in the database so that I can implement balance? How do you make a god? Like all those types of things. And so I sat in with them a lot, got to know the team really well. Ajax, really, the lead, the design lead has always been super, super helpful to me and welcoming and happy to teach me things. And, I owe him a lot. I think there came a point where that hunger that I had for casting just really wasn't there anymore. I didn't feel myself improving anymore. I felt like I had stagnated a little bit. And obviously losing Finch was a big part of that. It just went from being something I love doing to a reminder of, me missing my friend. And so it was just time to move on. And so I talked to AJ. AJ had mentioned to me in the past that, he thinks that I had some talent for this design stuff, and that if I was interested, that he thinks that, whether it be for Smite or for a different game, that he thinks it would be worth me pursuing. And I told him I really appreciated that, but I just wasn't ready to go at the time. I think there was a Paladins design opening, like season 9, I want to say, or something like that he sent to me and said he thinks I'd be a good fit for it, and if that's a path I wanted to go down, that'd be a really good starting point. And I just wasn't ready at that time. I still wanted to keep casting. But yeah, just the time came around. Or maybe no, because season 9 was my last season. So it would have been like season 8 or season 7 or something like that. But anyways, yeah, I just told him like, hey, I don't know if there's any openings, but I think I'm ready to explore something new. And he said he'd keep an eye out. And not that long after that, there was a design opening. I applied. I interviewed. I think they had the job opening up for a week, and I think they said they got like 1,500 applicants or something like that.
Wow.
For an associate game designer. Like, yeah, it was a lot. I was like, oh shit, I'm not going to get this. Like, I don't know, I don't know what the fuck I'm doing. Like, who knows? But, they trusted me and hired me for that position. And, still have a lot to learn. I still don't think I'm half as good as a designer as I was as a caster. But that hunger for self-improvement and that drive to get better, I definitely felt it like right away as soon as I moved over to design. And it's a surreal feeling to get to make a character for your favorite game. It's such a crazy feeling, and really, really thankful for it, and excited for my next one for sure. Excited for my next one.
Definitely. And it's that, like you said, it's that competitive nature, right? That drive. It puts you through being a pro, casting, now game development, right? It's aggro. That's what it is. Aggression.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Absolutely.
Is that where the name come from, by the way?
It's from a song. It's from a song from a band named Bayside. Yeah, it was aggression. And then when we got picked up by Aware, which was the team that I went to MLG New Orleans with before I was on Elevate, Aware _ was what they wanted all of our gamer tags to be, and Aware _ aggression was too long for Xbox, so
of course.
I didn't know what to do. And one of our subs, Aware Achilles, he would always call me Aggro. And so I was like, all right, I guess I'll just do Aware Aggro. And I hated it at first. Like, I really did not like it, because I was always, it was aggression with a 5 for the first Xbox gamer tag. Aggrifation is what I wanted to be. But shortened it to Aggro when I got picked up. And after like a few months, I was like, "Oh yeah, this is actually way better." Like,
yeah, dude. It's such a clean name.
It's way, way better for sure. I was so dumb to not want to do it. Yeah.
Okay, so you said season 9, you stopped casting. Was that at the play-ins? Was that after the play-ins event for season 9?
Yes, yeah, but we knew I was going to move on after, like, during that off season. Yeah, we knew I was done after Worlds.
Yeah, because I remember, like, so Zen and I went to that, right? We were competing. We got smoked, but, we had a good time.
So unlucky.
Yeah. So, of course we're driving home early because why not? And I remember I was driving, we had the finals on the car stereo, Zun's watching it. And I think it was Aggro was going to make an announcement. I have an announcement to make. And we just looked at each other. We're like, we already know what's coming,
Yeah.
Such a sad time. We already know what's coming.
Yeah, man, I was dreading that. But I asked to do it. I didn't want to. It would have felt wrong to just do it on Twitter or something like that. I like to write, and I like to write stuff down, but I feel like it's got to come directly from me, and letting people hear it. I think was important, and it was just important to me to be able to express how much the last 7 years basically had meant to me. It was such a, your mid-20s are such a transformative time in your life anyways. I think for a lot of people, you kind of go from feeling like a kid to feeling more like an adult. And to spend those years in Atlanta with our friend group there, and doing something that I was so passionate about, it was not lost on me how lucky I am to have gotten that experience. And can't do that without the support of the Smite community and the Smite fans. So just wanted to make sure that I could express a little gratitude that they certainly had deserved.
Definitely. My bad. I kind of got off track a little bit.
No, you're good.
Going back,
I tend to have that effect on my chair ones. I like to.
Yeah.
I would love to intentionally pull them off topic, man. That was the best.
So that's why I got all those messages before this. Okay.
Yep.
Did your experience competing and casting Smite influence your approach to how you go about developing it?
100%. Yeah, I think we all have inherent bias when it comes to design. I think it's one of my biggest weaknesses. It always has been, is that the way I think about the game is from a high level, and I think it's very clear from my god designs that my characters, while I really love all of them for something or other, or some aspects of some more than others, but the three that were mine from the beginning, Bake Kujira, I kind of put in a separate category because that was a different designer's god and a lot of limitations and all that kind of stuff, and wasn't my design from the beginning. But Maui, Ishel, and Maman Brigitte, they're just too hard. At the end of the day, to become really popular gods and really accessible to the majority of the community, those kits are just too hard. And it's because I made gods that I like to play. And I'm not saying that I don't like to play easy gods. Ra, I wouldn't call Ra easy, but he's simple. I think that there's a lot of, I miss the days when you could just make Ra a god. And I'm like, yeah, man, me too. You know what would happen if we released Ra as god 127? We'd get cooked.
Yeah.
This ability is a line that deals damage. Everyone would be like, oh, fucking sick. A line that deals damage. No way.
Yeah.
We can't do that. So, simplicity, I think everyone internally acknowledged that simplicity is good. And if we can get it in an ability or in a kit, we should. But that's not a super realistic goal. I just think Maui, for example, the one is just too hard to hit. The rest of the abilities are so high skill ceiling. The passive is high skill ceiling that he just needed a button that was confirmable. And if I were to go back and do it again, I think the one would be the ability that I'd change the most.
Dude, I love Maui, by the way. I was going to ask you,
Thank you.
Yeah, dude, he's one of my favorite supports in the game. And I remember, I was telling my chat this. When Smite 2 released, I was like, where's Maui, man? I just want to play Maui.
Oh, yes. Dash, I need you on the propaganda train, because here's the thing. Maui in Smite 2 is going to be... here's my I know I'm Kofium right now, but he's going to be so much better in Smite 2, okay? Just imagine the two Instead of you've got to stand in it, let this dumb fucking bubble come up around you, you can just step in it and press the interact key and you're out of there. Like, it's going to transform that ability. It's going to feel a billion times better. I'm going to get in there and tweak the jump. Like, the jump, don't even get me started. I've got a lot of pain points on it. It's going to be smooth and work this time. And I'm going to be, and I don't think I'm going to change the one entirely or anything like that, but I do want to make it a little bit easier to hit. He's going to be the most popular support in the game in Smite 2 because he's going to be smoother and better and cooler. And so I need more people on the Maui propaganda train for Smite 2. We got to put some pressure on these people who are making the decisions on what gods are going in what order. I don't want Maui to be near the bottom. Like, we got to get them there soon, man. We got to.
Dude, that interaction idea sounds amazing.
It's gonna be mwah. It's gonna be butter. You're gonna be saving people left and right. You're gonna feel like a support god.
Only the high level players though, because the low level ones always walk past the two anyways.
Well, yeah, but that's because they can't interact. They don't know that they got to stand in it.
That's true,
where's
yeah.
Where's our feedback that you've got to stand in it? Just this bubble that forms around you, not good enough. Big interact thing pops up. Save me, like, get out of here with this button. Everyone's gonna love it. He's gonna sell 1 billion skins. It's gonna be the best.
That's gonna feel so good. But yeah, I mean, like, kind of going back to what you were saying, and it makes sense too that characters sort of have to get more complex over time, right? Like, if you start off with a baseline of characters that are simple, which is great, but then like you build on something, and then God forbid you come out with a really cool complex character, and everybody starts demanding more of that. Like, you can't go backwards. Then everybody gets pissed. So you have to keep doing. It's almost like it's exponential. Like, you just have to keep building and building and building and building, and to the point where it starts getting like way too complex.
Yeah, I would joke with Lermy a lot because Lermy and I were the two god designers near the end of the Smite 1 new god cycle. And I would joke with her a lot that, like, no one's had a harder job than us when it comes to god design because we have to come up with things that no one else has come up with yet, God design only gets harder the more that there are. And that's not true, of course. Like, we get a lot more knowledge, a lot more precedent, a lot more like technical experience. We get more info on what players like versus don't like and all that type of stuff. But I think there is a little kernel of truth that making God 70 seems a lot easier to me than making God 170.
Yeah, for sure.
There's just you just have more to explore that you haven't done yet. Because a lot of times the things we haven't done are for good reason, because it's technically very challenging. It, has a lot of flaws or whatever it may be, and we need to figure it out. So and it's not always the case. Like when I was thinking about Maui, literally the first ability in my pitch sheet, the first ability I thought of was his ultimate, and I was like, this is just like I just knew that was it. Like. It's so cinematic. It's so in your face. It's such an epic feeling ability. And I couldn't believe, I was like, wait, surely we've like done this. Like, do we not have a circle tween to pull like Hercules 2 in a big AoE? And I was like, no, we kind of don't. Like, let's go. That's sick. But there's also, for every ability like that, there are 10 where you think of it and it's, oh, that's just this ability. Or like there was for Ishel, I was really struggling on what her primary wave clear ability was going to be. I had the ultimate, I had the 3 that was a little bit different. I had the 2. I really wanted a moon themed knockup because she's a Mayan moon goddess, and Awilish is in the same pantheon and has knockup synergy. And I was like, I know I want a moon knockup ability to have like some theological synergy there. But I could not come up with what I wanted her primary wave clear ability to be. And I remember I was like, oh, I know. We'll do a paint targeter, like AMC, but you'll paint and there will be some damage and there will be a small delay and then it'll like explode with light in that area. And I wrote it down right before bed. I was feeling really good about it. I was like, nice, I got it. I woke up the next morning, looked at my notebook, read it, and I was like, that's literally Victor E from League. It's the exact same button. Like, it's the exact same ability. What am I fucking talking about? Like, we can't do that. Like, I just nice job, Aggro. You made Victor E. Like, you've broken the game. Like, sick. So that, you know, that happened a million times with various abilities from Smite, from League, from Dota, Overwatch, you know, any of those types, fucking Battle Right, one of my favorite games. Like, that happens all the time.
Yeah, I heard. No, I haven't really played League at all, and I don't know this, but I've heard that Maui is very similar to Thresh, I believe, from League of Legends.
Yes. Yep. Yeah. Thresh Lantern is what I want Maui Bubble to be, and I'm not really that shy about saying it, because I think
you took
that
like I was gonna say, so you took inspiration
100%.
from that? Okay,
100%. Yeah, absolutely. Because when I was thinking about what are the coolest things that a support can do, it's, you know, in my opinion, the type of supports I like to play are like playmaking supports, like Maui, where you can be flexible, you can pull someone to you to help you engage a fight, you can pull someone out of danger, you can start a fight, you can peel, you can do all these things, but your kit isn't perfect at one thing, it just has all the tools to do all the things. And I think that those are the types of gods I like to play the most. And so when I was thinking about what type of ability do I like for supports, Thresh Lantern is like iconic in League. You know, I would call it, like, along with Thresh Hook and like Nautilus Hook and Braum Shield, it's like one of the top 3 most iconic support abilities. And yeah, it's, you know, it's a successful ability. We don't want to just rip an ability. You know, we want to take inspiration from it and see how we can apply it to Smite. There have been lots of League abilities that I look at that I'm like, oh, they just, you know, they reworked Galio and it's Athena now. Like, it's, you know, it's impossible when you've got 160 characters in their game, 130 in ours. Like, there's going to be crossover. But yeah, I mean, of course I took inspiration from Thresh Lantern. It's a great ability.
Yeah, I mean, you see the same thing in Deadlock too. I mean, I think that's completely fine, right? Like, everybody has limited ideas, right? We're human, and like, this looks cool. Let me just add this to my game. Well, like, why not? You know?
Yep,
so I think that's completely fine.
Yeah, I think. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
I was gonna say, so like, going back to what you said about, you know, Maui being a little bit too like skill based, right? Like, too hard to hit. Like, it's passive being a little bit weird, high skill ceiling. I feel like having characters like that in the game, though, personally, is good as long as you have like a wide range of characters, right? Like, you have characters a bit on the easier end, simple to understand, maybe like Sobek, for example, right? Like, except the pluck, please hit the pluck. But yeah, you know, everybody's like sort of simple to understand, and then you have like a little bit more complex characters that are maybe just being used more at like a higher level, right?
Right. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, you want that spread for sure. I mean, I think, trying to remember, because like I said, you get told, hey, here's your god, here's the role they need to fill. A lot of times we also have like, hey, we know that the god before this is going to be complicated, or the god after this is going to be complicated, so this one should be easier, or, you know, more accessible, is a term we would use a lot internally. And it's not to dumb down the kit entirely, but, you know, make sure that someone who's playing, you know, maybe this is their 5th Smite game, but they really love Maui, like from Myth or from media or whatever it may be, and they try them, you want them to have fun at the very least, right? You don't want them to feel like they're doing nothing. So yeah, I don't remember. I think with Maui, he definitely came in much harder than he was supposed to be. And he is also much more technically difficult than he was supposed to be. And I remember going into eShell, but, you know, it was my first god. I didn't really understand what was going to be technically difficult or not. The programmer I was working with, it was their first god. They also didn't really understand the limitations that well. So it was kind of just like a perfect storm. I remember with eShell, I went in saying, eShell, no matter what, I want it to be fun, of course. I want to be happy with their kit, but this is going to be the easiest god that programming has made in like 3 years or something like that. That was like a real dedicated focus of mine, because we use a program called Jira. A lot of places use it. It just makes tasks, right? It's just a task organizer. Maui was like, had the most Jiras of any god ever. I think, or like since Cthulhu or Merlin or, something like that. It was not good. It's not a badge of honor. It's not a good sign. I was like, Ixchel will have the least Jiras of any god since season 4 or something like that. And I was very proud to say that Ixchel did clock in a very low Jira count. Was much more technically sound from the beginning than Maui. So that was a good thing. But I remember Maman was a little bit different because I was told that it could be a little more. We kind of learned, I think for a little bit, like mid seasons of Smite, like season 4, season 3, it was kind of the Wild West. Like they just kind of did whatever they wanted to do, and however it landed. And then, we got better at research and understanding our players and all that kind of stuff. And it was like, okay, we need to be more deliberate about like accessible god, inaccessible god, and spreading those out. And then by the time that Lermy and I were doing it, it was kind of like, yeah, we don't get that much return on super accessible gods anyways. Like they don't get that much more play count. It's really about, does it feel right? And is it cool? And is it exciting? So you can kind of go a little more wild. And so Maman was a god that I'm really, really proud of, because one thing that, in my personal opinion, I think we don't do enough in Smite is I think Smite gods all feel too similar, like at a high level. You've got a clear button on your 1, you've got a CC on your 2 or a stim, you've got a movement on your 3, and your ult is big damage. And that's like the cast. And it's good because it means that, there's a reason why in Smite you main a role and play almost every god in that role. Whereas in a game like League, you main 2 champs. And you only play those 2 champs. Like it's because their champs feel very different from one another, and and your skills on one champ don't, your skills on Katarina don't help you at all at playing Lux. They're just, they play the same role. They're 2 different complete archetypes. And so something that I really want to try and push with Maman was I want this character to handle differently. Like I want my initial pitch and push was that I wanted 75% of her damage to come from passive procs, and her abilities are just there to proc the passive. If I could have made the abilities do literal 0 and all of the damage come from the passive, and I felt like the community would have gotten away with it, I would have. Like I was really determined I want to challenge the way, I want you to play Maman differently than you play another assassin. And that was like and I got a lot of pushback internally. There were a lot of people that were like not about that. And it feels weird. My passive I'm taking more damage. I remember someone was like, her abilities did almost nothing, but her passive one-shot me in my death recap. And I was like, sick. That's great. Like, and I was like, oh, nice. That's great. And they were like, no, I didn't like it. And I was like, oh, what? Like I did. That's what I want. And it's always a challenge because like when you're starting a god, like in Smite 1, Maui started in March. I remember I started research in March. He released in October, I think. It is a large amount of time in order to make a god. And so I'm thinking every single day about how Maui's going to play, what he's going to do, how would he handle this situation, like all this types of stuff. And then by the time you're playtesting, you've spent 5 months thinking about how a god handles, and these people are touching it for the first time. So they don't share your vision. They don't have these months of thought about like, oh, I'm going to play around my passive. They're just playing Smite and going, oh, I'm not doing any damage. And I'm like, okay, well, did you hit your 2? Did you hit them with enough ticks of your 1? Oh, no, I just held it on them. I didn't use my 2. Okay, yeah. I don't want you to deal damage in that scenario. And that, I think that I never would have done that, of course, with like my earlier gods. And, I'm still new and learning a lot about design stuff. But I think that that's like when I'm talking about my strengths, I talk about my strength as a caster. I think one of my strengths as a designer is I am excited about the idea of pushing the envelope outside of just Smite and getting it to feel more like these character, like the game is not just everything is just Smite. It's is this a cool game mechanic on its own that can exist within Smite? And so, yeah, I was really, really passionate about getting Maman out in that way. I think I still wish her passive was a larger percentage of her damage. I think the overall kit does more than I wish it did. But very happy still with that direction and that it was well received, because there was, I mean, we talked a lot internally. Like, I don't know if players are going to like it, because we've never done it. Like, we've never done a kit like this. Like, who knows what they're going to like. And yeah, I mean, ultimately I remember a meeting with a manager and they were not a fan of Maman's kit direction. And I said, if you tell me to change it, I will change it, because you're my boss and I will do that. And I understand that that's how it has to go, but I will not change it unless you have to order me to do it, because I'm not going to do it, because I trust that it will be received well. And a lot of credit to them. They said, okay, if you feel that strongly, then we'll ride it, because that's basically, we cannot, like, flopping on a god release and having a god not sell well and their skins don't sell well and that kind of stuff. That's not bummer type of moment. It's like, damn, people could lose their jobs type of moment. And I have a lot of respect for them and really appreciate them trusting me to make a decision like that. And happy that it was received well, because I was definitely nervous about it. Definitely.
I remember when Maman first came out, my initial reaction, because I didn't know how she played. I'm a support main, right? So, like, I'm not playing her. I started just getting hit by Maman. All of a sudden, I'm just like taking random damage and I'm dying. I'm just like, what the hell is killing me? Like, what's hitting me? Like, I just have no idea what's going on with that character.
Yep. And imagine with temp effects and no sound effects and all that type of stuff. Like, it was really confusing internally. But huge shout out to Chris, the lead effects artist at the time. He worked really hard on, like, how are we going to visually display this passive? And I think that the presentation we got of, like, the nails and then all of them, like, jutting into you at once, and Kellen on the sound team got the perfect sound effects. And I remember feeling, like, such joy at seeing the final effects and hearing the final sound effects of that, like, tick, 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 shing, tick, 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 shing, 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 shing. And, like, they just get progressively bigger hits, like, was exactly what I had wanted. And I was super excited about it.
Definitely. Yeah, like, and then once you start learning the character, right, like, you're playing against it more, you start understanding what's going on, you start understanding how to play against it. So it gets a lot better for sure. Yeah,
that's what a MOBA is about to me. Like, a MOBA is so exciting because you can sink 1,000 hours into it and then queue up a game and feel like you had something to learn. That's when we're talking about self-improvement and learning. Like, that's what makes me such a huge MOBA fan. Like, I haven't played a lot of Dota, but almost every other MOBA out there I've played a lot of. And it's what I love about it. And that's why I feel the way I do about wanting to push the envelope in Smite, because I like when I'm playing a predecessor game and I see an interaction that you just have to know that this character interacts with this character in this way. If it logically makes sense and I can see why it happens and it's not just a bug or something like that, then I'm like, oh yeah, that makes me want to play more. Like, that's what makes me want to keep coming back. And so that's what I think I'm always pushing for in Smite.
Definitely. And that's what makes the game, when you get enough of those characters, right, that's what makes the game a lot different from, say, like, if I stopped playing a year ago and I come back a year later, the game's going to feel a lot different with these characters added in, because they're so different. It's going to shape a different meta, right? It's going to create something different. Yeah, so I'll be expecting that for your future releases, by the way. Yeah.
I'll say my next god, I was told you can make it as complicated as you want. And I'm it's I think it's my craziest kit yet, and it's the kit I'm most excited about. I cannot wait to get started on this god. I think it's the case for a lot of my gods, but some people are going to love them, some people are going to hate them, but I hope the ones that love it really, really love it. Like, that's what I'm always kind of going for.
Speaking of people loving and hating it, I can imagine as a developer, you receive a ton of player feedback, some good and of course some being bad, just the way the cookie crumbles. How do you handle player feedback? Do you, like, brush it off a little bit? Do you take it into account on future projects that you work on?
Definitely. Yeah, I mean, I'm on the subreddit every single day. Some days more than others. You know, there are some rough ones out there from time to time. But I try and read everything. You know, I'm always lurking in streams and all that kind of stuff, trying to get feedback. I'll be honest, it is not something that I'm the best at. I don't think. You know, I think that I definitely can take things too personally. Because, you know, I think it's just hard when you see, you know, yourself or a coworker just doing so much and working so hard. Like I don't blame anyone in the community. You can't know how hard it is to make a game until you're doing it. Like, and frankly, it's a miracle that any game gets released ever, in my opinion. Like, this shit is just hard. It is really hard and really complicated. And the thing that always tilts me the most is the comments and the posts that insinuate or say that we aren't doing something or are doing something for malicious reasons, that, you know, we don't like the player base or a subsect of the player base, or that we don't care, or, you know, we don't listen or anything like that. Because, I mean, we care. You know, the people on my team, you know, obviously can't speak for the whole company, but I can speak for everyone that I work with, which is beyond just my team. You know, it's the people in QA and programming and effects and, you know, all this type of stuff. Like, these people do care a lot. And this shit matters to us beyond just a job. You know, Smite has been my life for 10 plus years at this point. You know, it's been what I do in my free time. It's been what I do during my work time for the last almost 10 years. No one wants it more than us to succeed. And so that's where the hardest part, I think, of reading player feedback comes in, is when it's, oh, you know, they just didn't think about something, or they don't care or anything like that, because, you know, I see how hard people are working. But in general, like, yeah, we're talking about balance or anything like that. We look a lot at the subreddit. We look at stats. We look at Twitch chats, literally, sometimes, if you could believe it. You know, there have been lots of times where we're like talking about a god, and I'll know, like, oh, Haddox played that god. Like, I was watching his stream, but I didn't get to watch, like, super closely. And I'll go through his VOD, and I'll just, like, I'll watch it on a higher speed, and I'll just have the chat up, and I'll see what he's saying, and I'll see what his chat is saying about, oh, this god playing against this god's super unbalanced, or this god is, like, super underpowered, or whatever it is. And I'm not saying that they're the ones making the decisions, but yeah, we're definitely taking that into consideration with it, because the reality is, players don't want every god to be at 50% win rate. They can say that they think that's what they want, but it really isn't. Like, King Arthur is a great example that we've talked about numerous times, where King Arthur never, because he released after I had started going to balance meetings, I can honestly say I don't think there was a single time King Arthur was at 50% win rate. He was always below. Always below. Glad Shield at its most broken, 46% win rate, whatever it may be.
Really?
Arthur does not feel balanced at 50% win rate. Arthur feels balanced at like 41% win rate for the overall player base. And that's, you know, if we can get Arthur to 41%, we'll stop getting posts about him. We'll stop getting complaints about him. We don't want everyone to be at 50%, because, number one, it's impossible. Number two, it doesn't feel right. Number three, it would be boring. Like, I always think it's funny, like, you know, imagine a world where we balanced Smite. In your opinion, that the game is perfectly balanced and everything is exactly where it should be. What do we do then? Do we just stop patching? Do we stop changing stuff? Like, what's the goal in that?
And I think that was a good lesson for me to learn, was that, I always, when I first started coming to balance meetings, I was like, yeah, I'm going to fix all these problems, and all this kind of stuff. And you just kind of realize that the point isn't to fix the problem. It's that you want to fix the things that people aren't happy with, of course, but you just really want to keep the player base engaged and as happy as they can be while staying engaged. And that's really just the end goal. And the hard part is the community moves the goalposts constantly because they're not one person. It's a conglomeration of a ton of different players. Of course, they aren't going to have the same opinion, and if they might think that Arachne is super underpowered, and they play against one guy who pub stomps them, and they're like, "Wait a minute, this god's broken." And then 2 days are between their Reddit comments, and they're saying completely opposite things. They reserve the right to change their opinion, as they should. So it's not about balancing the game to a perfect position where we can snapshot it and say, yes, we did it, we balanced it, it's done. It's just like, hey, is this fun or not fun? Okay, let's make it more fun. And doing that the best we can, and hoping we don't miss too often back to back. We're gonna miss. It's really when we miss like 2 or 3 patches in a row that it gets really bad. But as long as we don't do that, we're usually okay.
Yeah, dude, I was like one of those players when I first started playing Smite, got into Conquest. Arachne would just go around and just just stunning me, killing me. I'm just like, what's going on? I was playing with some friends too. She was owning my friends as well. I was like, this character's broken. And all of a sudden, I started playing ranked. I'm like, wait a minute, like I just sucked. It was the same thing with Kumba too.
Yeah. If Arachne's at 50% win rate, she feels terrible, by the way. That character has to be at 57 or 58 to feel balanced. Like, yeah, that's another one. She wins. She does. She is unbalanced. She wins like more than she loses on average. But that's where people are.
That is so interesting. It's such an interesting way to without talking with you. And same thing with Lermy was actually saying this too when I was talking with her. But without talking to you guys about this, I would never think that. I never would have thought that. Arachne has to be at 57%, Arthur has to be at 41%. Otherwise, God forbid Arthur's at 60%. Everybody's going nuts.
Yeah, there was some god, who was it? I think it was Tyr or something like that. I remember we got into a balance meeting one week and we pulled up the stats and Tyr was at 54, and we were like, oh fuck, what is wrong? Because Tyr is another one of those low 40s all the time. That's where he feels balanced. We're like, what the fuck is going on with Tyr all of a sudden? It was like a bug in our data and we were fine.
Okay,
but
good. Thank goodness.
There are gods that when you see Raijin way up there, we're probably in trouble. You see, God forbid, Set ever nears 50% win rate, alert the National Guard. We need help. They're just gods that's just, their balance points are not. Are there gods that balance points are 50%? Yeah, trying to think of one off the top of my head who usually hovers around 50 historically. I don't know, none are coming to mind. There are a good amount that are right around there. But yeah, a lot of them, Hades was considered unplayable. I don't think he left the top 5 win rate gods from season 4 to season 8 or something like that. He just stayed there. And no one complained about him. And then you'd hear me on cast being like, yo, Hades is OP. You guys know he's got a 2-second fear on a 12-second cooldown. He's got Hunbat's on a 12-second cooldown. Fucking play this god. And that was definitely, maybe me saying more than I should have at the time. But I'm also just Kumba always has a terrible win rate, but I'm a Kumba truther as well. That god's OP for sure.
Dude, he I remember when I was first climbing up, because I think I hit Masters my first split playing Conquest. And I remember starting off at the lowest rank, going up, you just see pick Kumba, he's broken. Pick Kumba, and all of a sudden you just hit this little line. You go past the line of ranks. Kumba's no longer broken. No one's saying pick Kumba, he's broken. So in that kind of so you guys are looking at overall overall like win rate for the community, right? You're not looking at like low ranked
Sometimes.
versus high ranked. Okay.
No,
so
we
like,
do that. We do that split a lot. Yeah, I'd say the majority of our conquest balance comes from looking at plat and higher ranked is what we use the most often. But there's never a time where we lock in at a balance decision without checking casual conquest, low rank conquest, and non-conquest modes. Like we do our due diligence on all those for sure.
okay, gotcha. So one thing I I kind of want to get your opinion on is sort of like I guess a bit of a hot topic right now, but
Sure.
yeah, I just want your overall opinion. Smite 2, the current state of it. Obviously people are pulling up Steam charts. Player numbers are a little bit low. Content creation too is a little bit low.
Yeah.
I want to know what your opinion of it was, especially from more of like I guess a developer perspective. How it's going, because I know week by week the game is getting significantly better, right? Like I can attest to that. I can, a month ago when I was playing, the game was not as good as it is right now, for sure. And like another month's gonna pass, game's gonna be a lot better. What's your opinion overall on like the current state of Smite?
Yeah, I think we got a lot of work to do. I don't see us feeling like we've nailed it anytime soon, which is both sobering and exciting. I think I'm of the opinion that the game the game, like I was saying about a MOBA, the most important thing to me is being able to consistently learn new things. And it's hard to do that with a small cast. And I think that the community drive to get more gods on the roster being the most important thing is something that I agree with. I think I am very hopeful that come free-to-play launch, that we will see a really big resurgence, because the roster will be significantly bigger. The game is pay to play right now, and that is a significant departure from high-res games in general, but of course of Smite. And I think that there are a lot of players who will try it and love it when they try it, come free-to-play launch. I think we need to find the right balance of making an upgraded version of Smite 1 and making Smite 2 the game, which is different than just the new version of Smite, if that makes sense. Like I said, I'm always thinking about how do we, if we've done it this way in Smite, that's great. Is that the best way for us to be doing it? That's something that I'm always really like critical about. But in the interest of just doing what our players are telling us they want, I think we are doing what we should be doing, which is just get the roster as big as we can. Don't worry about some other features that we have planned or that we want to do or anything like that. And let's just get the game in a state where Smite players and non-Smite players who are trying the game for the first time will come in and feel like, the game is not going to be done when it goes free to play. I don't think that the game will feel done when it goes to free to play. The game will feel like a competitive game in the MOBA space come free to play. And I do feel confident about that. I do think 50 characters is enough to get it feeling like, yeah, I can sit down and play this with my friends a couple nights a week. Or I can make content, with this. I can make 5 YouTube videos a week, 7 YouTube videos a week, whatever it may be. I do think it will get there by free to play. And that's what's important. The thing that we're going to have to keep our eye on is, because there's no doubt that, it's no secret. I'm not leaking anything here. We have to sacrifice some amount of like breaking into new space in order to get
as much done from as many Smite 1 gods ported over as possible. Like we have to slow on some of the new features and that type of stuff, and getting the right balance post free-to-play launch of how many Smite 1 god ports are we releasing, how many new to Smite 2 gods, or new to Smite gods are we making, how many new features are we pushing for, like all that type of stuff. I think we are going to have to, we've got our plans internally, but one thing I think Hi-Rez is very, very good about is listening to player feedback and acting on it. And I mean, we've adjusted our internal schedule God knows how many times, just based on feedback, and it will happen again and again and again, and that's just part of the job. But that's something that is for future us to worry about. Right now, I think it's just put our heads down, get the nose to the grindstone, and get as many gods as we can out and ready for free to play, so that when we get a big influx of players, and I really think we will when it's free, that they're having the best time they can.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, it makes a lot of sense. Is there like a certain like player count that you guys are also working towards? Like if you were to say see Smite in a year, what would your hope for it be in terms of like an overall like player count? Is there a minimum that you guys want to see?
To be honest with you, I don't know what our usual player count was in Smite 1. That's not something that I really put a lot of, I obviously put a lot of value in it. It's what determines how successful we're being, but that's for people who make more money than me to worry about. If it's kind of my mindset. The way I think about it are the people that I'm interacting with on Reddit, on Twitch, on Twitter, are they happy with the direction of the game? Are they happy with what they're playing? Are they excited about the new content we're making? And if the answer to those are yes, it's not really my job to worry about what the Steam charts say. Like, I'm just worried about making sure that the players we have are happy, and I'll leave it to the marketing people or AJ and the big wigs to decide how to acquire more players that then I can worry about keeping happy. But yeah, that's just kind of my viewpoint on it. I literally I could not tell you what our current Steam numbers are, what our peak Steam numbers were for Smite 1, what our average were. Like, I literally have never looked at any of that. And I probably should. That's probably not a great admission, but I got to show up and do my job regardless of what that number says. It's kind of the way I view it. So I'm just not going to let it adjust me.
Yeah, I mean, your job is trying to keep the player base happy, right? And that's that's what you're going to focus on. That's what you're good at. I mean, like I said, Maui. My second advocation for Maui, please.
Yes, Maui and Smite 2. We need we'll get it trending, something like that. We can promote it, whatever we got to do. Billboards.
This one's maybe a bit more of a for fun question, but if there were, say, no limits to your developmental ability, is there anything you'd like to add to Smite? Maybe something that you thought about in the past, but just wasn't doable. If you just didn't have like any limits at all, is there like one thing that's like, hey, I want to get this going?
Yeah, I thought the dual god release that we did for Horus and Set was awesome. And I wish we could do that again. I've heard the horror stories of what that was like to work on the back end of that, and I doubt we'll ever do that again, but I would love to do stuff like that. Be able to release like 2 new gods, 3 new gods that are all related to one another all at the same time. I think would be such a cool event. I think Smite 2 is so exciting because a lot of these things, we can start to do. The god trackers on unique abilities and that kind of stuff for, things to do. That was something I always really wanted in Smite 1. And that's the type of stuff that makes me want to keep on playing every day. I'm really excited we're getting to do that. Getting a chance to, I wish we had more time to make more changes to Smite 1 kits, I'll say. I've always been a proponent of, I've played Chalk for 10 years. I'm good on Chalk, unless we can do something that makes me really want to play him again. But for every player that's like me, I think there's a player that's like, I love Chalk and I don't want him to change, and I think that's like a super valid point of view. But, if it were just up to me and I had unlimited time and money and skills, then I'd probably
would I gut a character and completely change like 2 abilities, something like that? Yeah, of course I would. Like, it sounds like fun. I think I would. Yeah, I think there are some other ideas that we're kicking around internally that I don't want to talk too much about, but we're getting started on a system that I hope we can convert and get ready on. There's lots of these types of things that we work on internally for a while and then never launch for XYZ reason. But there's a feature that I've been excited about that I think we'll be able to get in for Smite 2, and so very excited about that. I know that's like, oh, great, Aggro, thanks for telling us fucking nothing. But, sorry, that's the best I got.
Hope is on the horizon, don't worry.
Yeah, we'll see. Maybe you all hate it. Who knows? I don't think so, but we'll see. So, yeah, I don't know. I think that's not really a great answer to your question, but just more new things to Smite 2 that are not just Smite 1 brought over. Getting to keep it Smite, keep it feeling Smite, keep it looking Smite, keep it smelling Smite, but keep it a little different than just Smite 1 as well with a new coat of paint. I think that's important for us.
Yeah, absolutely. What advice would you give someone looking to get into game development and trying to create a career out of it?
Yeah, I've been asked this a couple times. I'll say what I always say. I don't have the best answer because I kind of tripped and stumbled my way in. I'll give you the advice that I give to everyone when it comes to any industry. You would be amazed. You would be absolutely amazed at how far you can go just caring and being competent at what you're supposed to do, and then saying, hey, is there anything else you would like me to do? When I was managing interns at CBS, I would tell them that every time that I didn't do anything special as an intern. I didn't think. I just showed up on time, was where I needed to be, did what I was told, and then said, hey, do you need anything else? That's all I had to do, and I got hired and promoted very quickly. It was the same way when I started casting. All I did was show up on time, give a shit about what I'm trying to do, try and get better, and then hey, can I make a content piece? Can I do this? Can I do that? You will be amazed at how far that gets you in any industry ever. I'm so convinced that, because I thought, I grew up working at my uncle's pizza shop, and so quickly who's competent and who's not. And I was like, it's a restaurant, that's how it goes. And then you go to college and you meet a bunch of people and you're like, oh, no, it's the same, like 70% of people are just like kind of fucking around, like, and not caring. Like, you just got to do what you got to do and get it done and you'll be fine. But that's college. Once I get into the working world, it'll be different. I go to CBS. What do you know? 70% of the people around me are either incompetent or don't care, and you will advance if you just show up, care, try, and then ask if you can do anything else. That is all you've got to do in every industry ever. I'm so convinced if I went to NASA, it would be the exact same. Like, no industry, I think, is exempt from this. So that's my number one advice for sure. When it comes to game development in particular, I know Unreal Engine, it's what we're building Smite 2 out of. It's what we built Smite 1 out of. We built Smite 1 out of Unreal 3. We're on Unreal 5 now. You can just download versions of like Unreal 4, I think, maybe even Unreal 5, and make things. Like, just do it. If you have an idea for a game, there are tons of tutorials. I can't tell you the amount of Unreal 5 tutorials I've watched over the last year. Like, there are tons of great tutorials online. It doesn't have to be perfect. I think that not to get too philosophical here, but we as a society often let perfect get in the way of good. And we just go, we can't nail it. We can't do it perfectly, so it's not worth doing at all. And I just so heavily disagree with that. Like, make something, get your ideas out there on paper, and you don't have to release it or anything like that. Have your friends play it, give you some feedback, and then you can fucking delete it for all I care. But just that, like, that act of doing things, it's the same thing I would tell people with casting. Get an SPL demo, pull up the YouTube video and mute it, record yourself going over it and pretend you're casting it by yourself with a friend, doesn't matter. Just do it. There's so few things in this world that you can do to improve that are nearly as effective as just doing the thing you're supposed to do, or that you want to be doing. So just do it. Is like, not to be a Nike spokesperson, but like, it really is the best thing that you can do at any given time. The tough part is these days there are a lot, for like, I mean, even Ajax went to like a game design program in college, and those are becoming much more ubiquitous. So it's a little bit harder to study something else and then kind of jump into it, but it's certainly not impossible. Just, be active, do stuff, and good things will happen to you kind of naturally on that. Not always, not right away, but it's the best thing you can be doing. So that's my not super great advice.
No, I mean, that's really good advice. Opportunities will present themselves if you keep working at them.
Yeah,
definitely. And I was going to ask you about casting, but you beat me to it.
Yes. Yeah. You kind of got to do that. That one I think is interesting because there's more esports than there's ever been. Right. And these places need casters, these collegiate places, these amateur leagues, like all that type of stuff. Just sign up, like just do it. There's nothing stopping you. If that's what you want to be doing. And the only way to improve at casting is getting reps. That you can do all the VOD review in the world of your one cast. You're going to make the same mistake that you made 2 seconds into the first cast, even if you did 100 hours of VOD review on it. Like, you've just got to get reps. There are starting to become more people like me who are trained to be on camera, who want to get into esports casting. I think that there are programs going up like about esports casting, in colleges and that kind of stuff. Look around for those. Go to a college that has an esports department and ask if you can cast, or if they've got, someone set up to do the casting. Learn to do as much as you can, but at the end of the day, just do it as much as you can, and then watch it back. One of the things, there are some casters who I've worked with, I'm not going to name any names. There are some casters, and by some I mean multiple, who I'll go, oh, well, did you review your VOD? And they'll be like, oh, I just fucking hate the sound of my voice. And I'm like, okay, what am I supposed to do with that, man? Like, you got to do it. Like, you've got to do the VOD review. You've got to put in the work. But you have to get some games on tape in order to VOD review them. But then, no one likes the sound of their own voice. I don't like the sound of mine. You get over it. Like, no one does. It's not, your brain is designed to not, because your brain filters out your own voice when it's hearing it. So like, it does. No one likes the sound of their own voice. Get over it and do your VOD review. That's another one for sure. That's a pet peeve of mine. I got told that too many times, man. It pisses me off.
Yeah, I probably would be one of those people, but yeah, for sure. You just gotta.
How much you want it? How much you want
it. Exactly.
100%. Do you think everyone likes working out? I don't believe anyone who says they like working out. That shit sucks. Like,
dude,
but they
I
do
hate it. Yeah, exactly. I do it. I started doing it, but I hate it 100%. Yep.
That's the way to do it. You gotta.
Although people tell me about that runner's high, I've never gotten that, but they say
there is ain't no way, bro. I don't want to be running ever, bro. No way. I love playing sports. I hated running, man. I always hated running.
Yeah, dude, I used to play like football, and somebody like messed up. All right, run a lap around like this massive field, and you just got so mad at that guy. You got so mad.
The worst, man. The worst. I could not stand running, man. I couldn't stand it.
Well, Aggro, dude, thank you so much for doing this. Super appreciate it. It's been a blast. Honestly, the last 2 hours has been amazing. So thank you so much for sharing your knowledge, your experience, everything that you have to offer about Smite.
Yeah. Hey man, I appreciate you doing this series. You know, I've watched a couple of these, and I think they're great. And this type of content that I love to consume. And I was real pumped when you asked me. So happy to do it. Happy to come back and waste 2 more hours of your time at any point. That's no problem for me. It's kind of right in my Q zone. Even it's what I'm the best at. So
Dude,
happy
never
to do
was.
it, man. No problem. Appreciate you putting in the effort. This is what I'm talking about, Dash.
Thank you, yeah.
Just get in there and make some shit. Like, just start doing it, and good things will happen. So I see the work you've been putting in, and I appreciate it for sure.
Thank you, man. Thank you. Dude, you could have said, "Are you available at 1 a.m.?" I would have been like, "Absolutely." Now I am. You know.
Yeah. Well, my luck, my kid would have woken up right as we got started, so it would have been a dual interview with both of us. So, but he was good tonight.